Major project in the national interest will only proceed after Indigenous voices are heard in true partnership.
Tonight, controversial Bill C-5 legislation has entered a second reading in the Senate. We'll bring you an update.
We are fighting for our citizens, and we are fighting for the Métis Nation.
New and returning Métis Nation of Saskatchewan leadership is being sworn in this week. However, some duly elected officials did not get the chance to attend the ceremony.
There's so much harm that has happened because of the Crown. And we are still struggling. And it makes no sense to receive an award.
And we'll tell you why an Indigenous homelessness advocate in Montreal declines any recognition from King Charles. Tanse, good evening. I'm Chris Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. The Carney government's controversial Bill C-5 legislation entered a second reading in the Senate on Wednesday afternoon. One part of the bill aims to fast-track economic projects deemed to be in the national interest by running the approval process through one office and reducing the timeline to do this from 5 to 2 years. But Indigenous groups complain the bill was drafted without proper consultation and has moved through Parliament too quickly. Hassan Youssef is an Ontario senator and sponsor of the government bill. He says no major project will move forward without proper Indigenous consultation.
Major project in the national interest will only proceed after Indigenous voices are heard in true partnership. The rights of Indigenous people are not a footnote, but a foundation. Section 35 rights are enshrined in our Constitution, and the government has committed to stand firmly behind them.
As mentioned, the Carney government's contentious Bill C-5 is in the Senate this week. Ontario Senator Kim Pate joined us earlier today to talk about how the bill could affect Indigenous people. This interview was recorded before the bill went to a second reading in the Senate. Thanks for joining us, Senator Pate. Bill C-5 was moved very quickly through Parliament, and it looks like it is due for a third reading and a final vote by Friday in the Senate. Do you think this is moving too fast?
Well, certainly many people have written to us, have called our offices, and the witnesses who appeared in Committee of the Whole and the pre-study in the Senate said that. And so, yes, I think there's an urgency. And then all the witnesses who appeared have said we need to move. We obviously need to move to be able to deal with some of the trade issues that are of concern. But when it comes to the consultation pieces, that we should be taking at least the summer to do that. So that's something that we have heard loud and clear. And, they're in the House of Commons, they separated out those two sections of the bills, but then still passed them. So we're expected to pass it by Friday here as well.
What are some of the concerns you have with the legislation as far as Indigenous groups are concerned?
Well, the Indigenous leaders who appeared before us have been extremely clear that they think there should have been adherence to the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, free, prior and informed consent, and those consultations needed to happen before the bill is passed, not afterwards. We're heartened by the fact that a letter was received. I just received it today, but it was written yesterday by Minister LeBlanc, basically reassuring us that the kind of consultations that need to happen will happen over the summer. That's hopeful. However, it's not in the bill, and so the concern remains that if that commitment is not lived up to, if it's not in the bill, how will it be remedied? And so that's a concern. And there's also concern about, obviously, the environmental, social, and economic impacts for those who are left behind. And the national chief, Cindy Woodhouse-Nipinak, when she appeared before us, talked about the fact that there are national infrastructure or infrastructure projects in First Nations that are of national significance, and was a plan to actually implement, provide resources to ensure that those needs are met, and that it certainly wasn't a clear response, but those are the sorts of questions that many of us have. We see that the need to deal with interprovincial trade is obviously important, the need to build up the capacity in Canada. But as wildfires are raging and many First Nations are dealing directly with that issue right now, it's very clear that the need to consult, the need to take into account the environmental, but also the economic and social interests for Indigenous peoples is crucial.
Senator Pate, will there be enough time to make amendments at the committee level, and do you plan to make any?
I'm not planning to make amendments, but if there are amendments coming that are around free, prior, and informed consent I understand that possibly one or more of my colleagues, particularly one or more of my Indigenous colleagues, may be making amendments, and then I will certainly look to those. And I will be speaking today about the need to look at these issues. It seems pretty clear the bill is going to pass, and so getting on the record as much as possible about how important it is to hold the government to account for the commitments it's making, particularly if some amendments were made at the House level, maybe more will be made here, but now what remains to be seen is the action and the follow through, and many of us are committing to continue to follow up and try to ensure that the government is held to account.
Senator, we got about 40 seconds left. The Liberals generally had good relations with Indigenous groups under Justin Trudeau. Do you think the Carney government is running the risk of sabotaging these important relations with this legislation?
Well, certainly many leaders have raised the concern. If they've raised it with me, they've no doubt raised it with many other senators as well, that good relationship stands to be interfered with if the commitments aren't followed through. So I think a lot remains to be seen, and based on what happens in the coming weeks and months, if the Prime Minister does not follow through on the commitments he's making now to consult with Indigenous peoples, I think it could very well harm the relationship. My hope is that he'll live up to those commitments.
Senator Pate, we'll have to end it there, but thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Creason.
It was a scary moment in the Canadian Senate. This afternoon, Senator Patrick Brazeau from Quebec rose to speak and then collapsed.
Thank you very much. And
a Senate spokesperson says Brazeau had a medical incident. He was examined by paramedics who rushed to the Senate to Brazeau's aid, and right now he appears to be recovering. The Senate was paused for 30 minutes and continued into the afternoon. This week, newly elected Métis Nation Saskatchewan leadership was sworn into their positions. However, some duly elected officials did not get the chance to attend the ceremony. APTN video journalist Rachel May was at the ceremony and has the details.
We now have to begin to be able to engage with each other.
Métis Nation Saskatchewan President Glenn McCallum began his third term after re-election in May. At his swearing-in on Tuesday, he highlighted his priorities of land rights, the Métis Treaty, and partnering with the University of Saskatchewan on research led by Métis scholars. McCallum says the next 4 years will be busy for the nation.
So for me, we just continue doing things that we're doing right now. And like I said, education, economic development, health, and the list goes on.
Not all elected members attended the ceremony, as 3 provincial Métis Council positions, Vice President, Treasurer, and Eastern Region 2, were not sworn in due to pending judicial recounts. 2 elected officials, Wendy Gervais and Sherry McLennan, attended, but weren't allowed in the room, stating they were told to stay home. When asked, McCallum acknowledged tension behind the scenes at MNS.
And the 2 that are not here are things that we have to do. That's in-house stuff that are going on with our government. It happens everywhere.
McCallum says a process is underway to determine when Gervais and McLennan will join the rest of the provincial Métis Council. He did not detail the issues, citing confidentiality, but both women have spoken about the situation. Gervais says she, McLennan, and 2 others filed a harassment complaint against a Métis Nation staff member after an incident at a council meeting earlier this year. She says MNS investigated and then barred her and McLennan from council meetings until they apologized to the staff member.
And I have no problem apologizing when I make a mistake. I don't think Sherry does either. However, we're very well aware that, we have done nothing wrong.
Gervais added that neither she nor McLennan are resigning, and while not everyone needs to get along, they must work together for the betterment of MNS.
It's called responsible governance, and so are we practicing responsible governance when we lock out elected people? Again, we may not like each other, and I'm not saying everyone has to like me or love me, but I was elected in through a duly elected process.
McLennan says that being escorted out of the swearing-in ceremony reminds her of an iconic Métis leader.
I will fight, just like Louis Riel, till my death, to provide governance and to provide the best for my citizens.
She added that the stress from the recent election led to hospitalization, and the uncertainty about her role nearly cost her her life. But she remains dedicated to making MNS prosper.
Here, because we're fighting for Louis. This happened to him too. He was locked out and he was not able to go to the table. We are fighting for our citizens, and we are fighting for the Métis Nation.
Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
We have to take a short break, but when we return, we'll tell you why an Indigenous homelessness advocate in Montreal is refusing a coronation medal from King Charles. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Naguset is well known in Montreal for her contributions to Indigenous people experiencing homelessness, and in particular, Indigenous women. Due to her work, she was nominated for the King Charles III Coronation Medal. However, she is declining the award. As APTN Savannah Craig reports, Naguset explains why she can't accept it.
King Charles is the oppressor. So how do you take an award from an oppressor? I don't know how to. So I would prefer not to.
Naguset has been the executive director of the Native Women's Shelter of Montreal for more than 20 years. She's also the founder of Resilience Montreal, a center to support homeless people near Cabot Square in downtown Montreal. Due to her contributions to the Indigenous community, she has been nominated for the King Charles III Coronation Medal.
There's so much harm that has happened because of the Crown. And we are still struggling. And it makes no sense to receive an award.
Naguset says this award also contradicts the Permanent People's Tribunal she's hosting next year. It will investigate human rights violations related to missing children and unmarked graves at residential schools, seeking accountability from both the Canadian government and the Crown's roles in the residential school system.
The PPT is going to happen in May of 2026. So it would feel very strange to serve him with an indictment and then take an award. No, I can't do it. I can't.
Naguset says she was nominated by Senator Michelle Odette.
It was for me also a way to remind the king that no matter what happened, we are still standing. We are still taking those space, and we are strong.
The senator told APTN News she respects Naguset's decision to decline the medal.
And my colleagues got the award, and I was like, well, when you go, can you ask them for our land back? Because that's what we want. What I would prefer is to, have more action from the Crown to mend all the harms they've done.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
Today in Ottawa, Governor General Mary Simon presented 32 appointees into the Order of Canada, along with 29 Canadians who received meritorious service decorations. Among them were 5 Indigenous honorees. Haida Gwaii artist James Hart Edenshaw received the Officer of the Order of Canada for his work in creating artworks that raise awareness and reconciliation and environmental protection. Jeff Reading from Tyendinaga First Nation received the Member of the Order of Canada. He's recognized for his leadership in traditional knowledge and Western health practices, which has positively impacted Indigenous people's health worldwide. Phyllis Webstad from Canoe Creek Indian Band inspired Orange Shirt Day, which takes place every September 30th in Canada. She was honored with the Meritorious Service Cross. She shared her story about how, as a child on her first day at residential school, her special orange shirt was taken away. And the founders of the Buffalo People Arts Institute, Jolie Big Eagle Kukwetoway from White Bear First Nation and Lauren Kukwetoway from Zakamea Anishinaabe, were both recognized with the Meritorious Service Medal. It was in part for their educational workshops on the importance of bison to Indigenous people. Congratulations to all of those people. Award-winning Métis visual artist, justice advocate, and environmentalist Christy Belcourt was recently given an honorary doctorate for her exceptional achievements in the arts and culture sector. Belcourt was one of 4 recipients of the honorary doctorate from the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto, awarded on June 13th. The university says the doctorate recognizes truly remarkable Canadians who are leaving an indelible mark in the arts and culture sector in the country and around the world. Belcourt is best known for her paintings of plants and animals that use patterns that resemble Indigenous beadwork. Her works of art are showcased in galleries and exhibits across North America. Belcourt has also been a member of the Order of Canada since 2024. Part of her message to all of the arts graduates was, sensitivity is their strength.
Sensitivity and empathy is our strength. And this sensitivity makes us more prone to see injustices for what they are. As a Métis person whose ancestors and people have experienced displacement from colonization from our lands, government-mandated starvation, disease, residential schools, the injustice system, the child welfare system, and the ongoing epidemic of murdered and missing Indigenous people in these lands, I stand in solidarity with all oppressed people in the world, including in Palestine, the Congo, and Sudan.
When we come back, we'll tell you about a business that is giving back to its community in a big way in BC. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Time now for our photo of the day. Our very own Sarah Connors shared this photo of her and her husband Dylan. They just got married almost 2 weeks ago in her home province of Nova Scotia. A big congratulations to Sarah and Dylan from all of us at APTN National News. Send us your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. On the East Coast, Fredericton 20, Charlottetown 18. The Grand River 22, Happy Valley, Goose Bay 12 and rain. 22 in Saguenay, Saint Jovite 22 as well. 30 in Windsor, Sault Ste. Marie 20 and rain. 23 in Timmins, Sudbury 20. Thompson 22, God's Lake sunny there and 18. 21 in Princess Harbour, Dauphin 23 and partly cloudy. Rain in Regina at 28, Saskatoon 25 and showers. Showers in Buffalo Narrows at 23, La Ronge 22 and rain there. Rain in Grand Prairie at 23, Fort McMurray 26. 27 in Lethbridge, Red Deer 23. 14 in Tofino, Kamloops 25. 20 in Smithers, Prince Rupert 13 and rain. 21 in Rock River, Mayo 21. Norman Wells 26 in Smoky there, Wrigley 23 and rain. 11 in Sax Harbor and partly cloudy, Colville Lake sunny and 22. 16 in Baker Lake and rain there, Chesterfield 15. and Clyde River 7 in sun, Aglulik partly cloudy and 16. Now to Vancouver, where APTN's Tina House caught up with an entrepreneur that's created a business that's giving back to the community in a big way.
At this point, I add essential oils to make a beautiful smell in the soap. This is one of our most popular soaps.
Since 2018, Lynn Marie Angus started making soaps, bath bombs, and other products in her basement. Her business orders mostly came in online, and she got creative by utilizing traditional knowledge and incorporating cedar, lavender, sage, and sweetgrass into her products. In 2022, she opened the Sister Sage storefront in East Vancouver. She says she still does a lot of business with online orders, but she's excited to have the opportunity to do in-person sales. However, not only is she a businesswoman, but also an activist with slogans like "Decolonize Your Shower."
Here at Sister Sage, I think we do business a little bit differently, and I like to lead with my activism first and foremost. So that's really about supporting the First Nations, Métis and Inuit struggles, advancing ideally reconciliation.
Sister Sage uses some of the profit to give back to the community by supporting giveaways on Vancouver's downtown east side and giving away backpacks with school supplies to kids from low-income families.
In honor of National Indigenous Peoples Day, we here at Sister Sage created this gift box that will be available for the rest of the month, and it contains a cedar smudge spray, a cedar soap, a bath bomb, and a liquid soap. And we've reduced the cost a little bit, so it's more affordable and it's available online in store.
And these 2 bars of soap have special meaning to her.
So these are 2 of my most special soaps. When I first started making soaps, I wanted to honor my parents, and so I come from the Métis Nations on my dad's side, and this is my West Coast soap. And I really love it because I get to be creative and feel like an artist when I'm working. And then on my mom's side, I'm Korean Métis, and so this powwow soap was to honor her as well.
Sister Sage has won numerous business awards, and Lynn Marie says her goal is to continue to change stereotypes of Indigenous people, 1 bar of soap at a time. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Cool story. Thank you, Tina. And finally for us this evening, a fierce brawl between a couple of bears broke out on a street in British Columbia, snarling traffic and stopping onlookers.
I go for walks every day by this area, by the creek, and I think it's going to scare me now for a while.
2 growling black bears wandered onto a residential street in Burnaby, BC in a long, drawn-out fight. The sight of 2 bears fighting doesn't usually happen in front of a human audience. Some cars turned away while some stayed for the entire showdown that lasted about an hour before the animals went back into the woods. Quite a scene. That's all the time we have for your evening APTN National Newscast. We're back again tomorrow for your daytime newscast. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, Masicho Miigwech, Hai Hai Kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next set.